Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here today with Mayor Olivia Chow and the Chair of the Toronto Police Service Board and City Councillor Shelley Carroll. A little later today at the Toronto Police Service Board meeting, I'll be providing an update on crime indicators. So far in 2025, we have seen decreases in community safety indicators, including robberies, auto thefts, break-and-enters, shootings, intimate partner violence, and hate crime. However, we remain vigilant as we see that carjackings are up. Today we will also be talking about call response times. We have seen improvements over the past several months. We've achieved this through the continued strategic deployment of new recruits based on call demand, improved supervisory capacity, and active management of resources and priorities across the city. Last year, at this time, we had a Priority 1 average response time of 19.6 minutes. So far this year, we've improved average response time down to 12.6 minutes. This decrease of 7 minutes represents an improvement of over 35%, which is positive news. The year is young, and we know that various factors can influence these numbers, including the weather. One thing is clear, though. We remain committed to do everything we can to see these trends moving in the right direction and to be there when Torontonians need us the most. I would like to thank the Mayor and the Board again for approving our 2025 budget, which will allow us to continue to hire police officers, among other things. Our multi-year hiring plan, including the projected hiring of 720 new police officers over the next 2 years, will make a huge difference on the front line, and it will support our efforts to reduce response times. And before I end, I also want to thank our frontline members who do an amazing job, day in and day out. Their job is not easy, and the command and the whole service will continue to do everything we possibly can to support them. Thank you all for being here, and I'll turn it over to Mayor Chow.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief Demkiw, for hosting us today. Also joined by Councillor Shelley Carroll, our Budget Chief, and the Chair of the Police Board. And I believe that the Vice Chair, Chris Bellinger, is also here. Everyone deserves to be safe. When you face an emergency, you need to know that someone will be there to help you out, and fast. Whether it's a fire, ambulance, or you're facing a dangerous situation. Toronto's police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and community crisis service are there to help. Over the last year, year and a half, when I first got elected, I was worried about the police response time. At that time, a couple of months after I got sworn in October 2023, it was 26.7 minutes. It's at its peak. That's how long it takes for a priority call. Over the past decade, our population increased by 35%. That's why the emergency services must grow with the city. And as the Chief has just said, Budget 2025 make a heavy investment on frontline officers. It means that police will be there faster when you need them most. We are investing in first responder across the board, more firefighters, more paramedics, and more police officers, more community crisis service. As a result, at the peak, as I said, was 26.7 minutes. Today is 12.6 minutes. That's a drop of 14 minutes. It's 50% faster. which means when you call 911, when you're in need, it's a priority call. The police and others, but especially the police, will be responding 50 times faster than at its peak in October 2023. That trend line is great because we are seeing the response time decreasing. They are arriving faster. Now, those numbers are always seasonal because as the weather gets warmer, the calls becomes more frequent. So, but the trend line is definitely the numbers are coming down. Partially it's because of the 306 officers that have been hired, and they've been deployed a lot of them are on the front line. And there's a new class that the chief and I and the chair, we were congratulating the graduates. I believe the deployment starts on Monday, so the trend line will continue. And part of that reason is that there's a multi-year staffing plan in this year's budget. Councillor Carroll worked in lockstep with Vice Chair and the, as I said, Chris Ballinger, the former Executive Director of Family Services Toronto, on a comprehensive approach to predictable long-term staffing and to community policing. The 2025 budget invests in neighborhood community officers who come from the communities they serve and will build trust with the community. Combined with the multi-year staffing plan, that is a critical step. Everyone deserves to feel safe and represented by the officer who served their community. I want to thank our police officers and all the first responders for their services. They show up when we need them most, so big thank you. We will continue to invest in a multi-year staffing plan, so help arrives faster when you need it most. Today's announcement shows what's possible when we work together. Okay. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Chow, and welcome to Police Headquarters this morning.
It's my first time here.
Yes. So the police board is meeting today, and this good news will extend to the police board, and we're especially proud to have the mayor joining us because this is an investment not just at the board level, but all of City Council taking this big step. And what does it mean? What does it mean that we're making this announcement today, that we have had this very rich improvement in response times, and that we are continuing to invest? For Torontonians, it means a safer city, and we heard loud and clear. People want to feel safe. They want to feel that on average that response time is going down. They want to know that in dire circumstance, you are the first one to get that response. We're able to say that now, but it means a tremendous amount to the officers themselves. We're bringing in new officers. We have 4 classes being graduated this year. And what it says to those officers is you're starting work in a police service that is dedicated to continuous improvement. You're starting work in a service that has as its helm a chief who is dedicated to modernizing not just the service, but modernizing culture, focusing on wellness. And so if we can improve response times, if we can bring new officers on stream this very week, what it means is you have backup. You're one of the best trained officers in the country if you are starting work in the Toronto Police Service. We have a senior command that is dedicated to these purposes. And so we want those great Toronto officers to stay Toronto officers. We want you to build your career here, and making sure that you have backup, that we are continuously growing along with our city that is continuously growing, has a huge impact on morale. You know that as you go into some of the most difficult situations in the city, meeting people face to face in their most difficult day, you've always got backup. And that hasn't been felt. That's what we heard loud and clear, and we're acting on it in a very strong way. And we're seeing it now in response times. We can actually measure the improvement as we go along. And so this good news is good news for the community, but also the officers themselves that are right now out there manning every division and making sure that they're there for you, the Torontonian, and they're coming to you knowing that they have the full weight of the service behind them, always growing along with its community. Sure, that's an assignment for our Toronto City budget, but it's working together in the partnership. You see the chief, the mayor, council, backing us up as we try to make those improvements means that we're going to make Toronto that safe city that everyone has come to expect over their long life in Toronto, and knows that that very much is the future of the City of Toronto as well. And so we're especially proud to have the mayor congratulating us on that improvement and being here to celebrate it this morning as the board gathers for its monthly meeting. Thank you.
Chief, you mentioned that a lot of the crimes are down. I'm wondering, does that have an impact on response times as well? How to respond to that?
Well, I think the two can't be disconnected. I think they are interconnected. But response times going down has a multitude of things that make that happen. Hiring is one, but trend lines on crime also are impacted by a multitude of things, which includes us getting there quickly, us gathering the evidence we need to gather quickly, and then being able to apprehend and hold those responsible accountable. So there's a whole number of things that have to come together to help drive some of these, benefit or successes. And crime rates are tied to a multitude of things, but apprehension of offenders, putting them before the courts, is one of the key elements that we have been doing. 50,000 arrests last year, and that's a trend line that's going up. And our members are working very, very hard to get there as quickly as they can and apprehend those who are causing the greatest harm in our city.
And then for the mayor, I mean, your council has given the police obviously tens of millions of dollars under your tenure so far. Do you feel like Toronto's getting its money worth so far?
Well, 45 million extra to be precise for this year, and we are seeing a larger number of officers, a larger number of first responders out in the front line. And today, we are seeing the result. 50% faster in response time, which means when you call for help, they're there a lot faster than at the peak of October 2023. At that time, it was 26.7 minutes. That's almost half an hour. That's a long time, and it was worrisome. It was a few months after I was sworn in as the new mayor. So we, at City Council, considered it, and my budget chief and I had a conversation. And last year, she joined the board, and now the chair of the police board. We came up with a multi-year staffing plan, which is important because predictability, stability, so that there will be deployment plan. That's critically important. If not, what I've seen in the last 10 years is up and down, up and down. There's years that there was no hiring, and because of retirement, the number dipped, and sometimes it comes back up. But when there's instability, then how do you deploy it in a way consistently? So that did not make sense. So when Councillor Carroll said, let us make sure, working with the chief, coming up with a multi-year staffing plan, I said, yes, we will fund it, we will back it up, because stability is what we need, and predictability.
Mayor, you have a lot of, everyone in the city is waking up feeling anxious this morning with the threat of the Trump tariffs. So what do you say to the workers in the city, to the people who are worried about their cost of living going up, literally everything going up, and how are you going to support them?
I want to say to Torontonians that Toronto has your back, whether you're workers or businesses. We will take a Team Canada approach. As you know, that the Prime Minister is making an announcement at 10:30, and then followed by the Premier. Last week, we came together with the Mayor's team Canada, it's called Action Team, right? Economic Action Team. And we have a plan. We will unveil it after we examine what the federal and the provincial government will be doing. But with weather, economic turbulence time before, whether it was the COVID pandemic recently, like it wasn't that long ago, right? And then before that was 2008. There was an economic downturn. It was very severe. We weathered it together by supporting each other, by caring for each other, by investing in workers and small businesses. In about an hour, I'm doing an announcement together with the federal minister at 10 o'clock in Scarborough.
Chief, I appreciate Toronto's not a border city, but I know the chiefs from all across the country are having conversations now, especially because Donald Trump initially made this about the border and strengthening drug flow. And it wasn't that long ago you were standing in this room with the biggest cocaine seizure ever, which came through the United States. We know guns come through the United States every day. So can you talk about some of the conversations happening behind the scenes with other chiefs about how to strengthen Canada's side of the border?
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, an opportunity to unpack that a little bit. There have been meetings. I've personally met with newly assigned Commissioner for Border Issues, and I do meet very regularly, as you know, federally, provincially, and actually internationally on issues around crime. And the border is an issue and has been for many, many years for us here in this city. When you look at gun crime specifically, we know that upwards of 90% of the criminal handguns that we recover are sourced to the United States of America. And that is something I've stood at this podium and talked about. So we really work very collaboratively with our provincial, federal, and American partners as it relates to border security itself. And the ongoing efforts is something, again, we're supporting and making sure we contribute and do our part where we can.
I know a politician's job is to offer political spin, and Donald Trump is doing that in this case. But is it frustrating for you on the other side of the table to see someone saying, well, all these drugs are coming from Canada without any mention of the reverse happening? And we see how the impacts here in the city of Toronto.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment of everybody watching the news, but, I stay laser focused on my mandate and my mission, which is to keep Toronto the safest place it can be, and being as tied to the evidence and the facts that present themselves to us here in Toronto so that we can make the right decisions operationally. And when I need support, I can make sure the board and the mayor have the information they need to support us financially when we are laser focused on crime here. And here in our city, as I said, we do definitely stay laser focused on gun crime, drug trafficking, poison drug supply, which we know, as statistics show us from the evidence we gather, handguns are predominantly from the United States, and we remain laser focused on what is presented to us here in Toronto.
One more question?
Mayor Chow, back to you, that if none of my colleagues have questions. About procurement specifically, I know you've asked the city manager to go back and look at existing contracts. Yesterday, we heard Brampton's mayor saying we're essentially not going to be allowing American companies to vie for local municipal contracts. Is that something that you're examining for Toronto as well?
Yes, local procurement is very important for us. Our budget is $78 billion. The capital budget is $60 billion, and the operating is $18 billion. So it's much, much larger than other municipalities across Canada. So that's why the investigation is very important. And we do want to coordinate together with what the federal and the provincial government is doing. So we don't want to act alone. What we are doing already is the buy local, and shop local, working with the business improvement area so that we can support a lot of the small businesses right here in Toronto, because they're going to hurt when some of the, especially in manufacturing industry, some of the workers are going to be having problems. So they need retraining, they need support, they need a whole host of things, which we'll roll it out.
It's important to remember It's important to remember something about procurement. We don't need to actually lay threats. And while we're reviewing policies, even before we review those, remember that all of the cities, think of the whole GTA region and the things we buy every day. Food for every long-term care center and every child care center, and so on and so forth. The uniforms on the backs of our officers. So there are things that we purchase constantly, and we all purchase those on a lowest bidder context. And so the lowest bidder just became whoever is already producing these things locally. And so even as we review the policies, something that may be before the chief procurement officer today, the lowest bidder just became the person who does that in Canada. And so it's not really about threats. We have business to do. And the best deal is the one we're going to respond to. And that just became fundamentally changed by President Trump's tariffs. And so, the Premier can say, I'm taking particular kinds of American booze off the shelves, but that also became a good economic decision because Canadians stopped buying it last week. So why would we keep it on the shelf if no one's buying it? People are making decisions in real time that are going to cause real impacts. And if we do that in city procurement, it's because it will be good business. It's just the lowest bidder just became our domestic proponent.